Let's see. All right. Now we're going to check. If I disappear because YouTube is glitching this morning, have no fear, I will be back. But I want to go ahead before the chat starts to get you. There we go. Go ahead and take your screenshot of the graphics for today. And while you're doing that, additionally, we're going to be inhaling and exhaling 3 deep cleansing breaths to regulate the emotions and let the prefrontal cortex know that we are about to use it and the remaining regions and lobes of the brain. So on your own, starting right now, inhale and exhale 3 deep breaths. As we can see from the brain graphic today, we are on principle of the number 23 in the principle of real leadership, establish trust, and be trustworthy. Okay, I am back. I'm back. Okay. Additionally, agua, vasa, water, that liquid gold, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, get your water ready because, as Dr. Bain says from TikTok, the neurologist, your brain is 75% water. As a result, you need to hydrate it. You've slept, you've woke up, and now you're here and you need to drink some water and drink some water throughout to ensure that you maintain your hydration. The Dr. Donna quote for today is, real leadership is trusted leadership. Automatically, I believe that, God willing, one day people are going to say, I'm a real leader. Because say, oh, you're a real leader, I trust you. I know you already got all your neural pathways wired and you're using the 74 principles of real leadership. Hell yeah, I do business with you. Yes, I will enter into a relationship with you. I can trust you because you are a real leader. That's pie in the sky, 2 levels up. That's how I see things. Yes, we can have 6 billion adults saying, I'm a real leader, and the world is going to be a better place. How did we get here? We got here through our parents. No. Neurogenesis, which is neurons going, firing off. Good morning, Regina. Neuroplasticity, the neural path, the neurons met and say, hey, what's up? You want to hook up? And they say, yeah. Here's some doggone neurotransmitters that exchange, bam, synaptic connections, fire, wire, bada boom, bada bing. And now we're here at neuropability, which is your brain's ability to wire itself to use the 74 principles of real leadership and create unlimited neural pathways so you too can be a bad mofo like me. And we use our working memory over here because you are using your working memory dozens, if not hundreds of times per hour, every hour that you are awake. So your working memory needs to be gainfully employed. And that means you need to be learning something new every day, according to Charlie Munger. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into it today. Again, establishing trust and being trustworthy is the number 23 23rd principle of real leadership. In chronological order, we know the most important principle of real leadership is hold yourself and others personally accountable, or none of the other 73 are going to work. So what brain regions and hemispheres are used to establish trust and be trustworthy? To establish trust and be trustworthy, multiple interconnected brain regions are involved. These regions span both hemispheres, but some show greater activation in the right hemispheres depending on the context. And so emotional trust versus cognitive trust. And I didn't know that those were different. So we are going to have a live at some point in the future on emotional trust versus cognitive trust. We're going to get some flashes of it today, but I am very interested. That's a sexy topic for me because I'm like, oh, so you got to think about trust and cognition, but then you got emotional trust. Because when people think about trust, like they said, like I just said, it's all about the emotion. I don't trust you. You broke my heart. I don't trust you. You fucked the business up. But it's going to be interesting to see about that cognitive trust. Okay. So what, what brain regions are involved in trust and trustworthiness? Coming up on the top of the list is the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and it evaluates moral decisions, empathy, and value-based judgment. And the hemisphere activation is bilateral, slightly more right dominant in emotional evaluations. Good morning, Lola. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and it regulates behaviors, supports honesty, and impulse control. This left hemisphere for logic processing and right hemisphere for moral flexibility. And I meant to write that down too, because I like that moral flexibility as well. Okay, next on the scene, we can't go a day without talking about the amygdalas, or the amygdales, if you go left and right. And it detects trustworthiness from facial expressions, processes fear, and social signals. So the right hemisphere is more active for threat detection. It's looking for the saber-toothed tigers. Where is it at? Oh my. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Next is the anterior insula, and it generates the gut feeling. Remember, that gut brain is sending 400 messages per day to the head brain all day long, saying, don't eat that, don't trust that. Are you sure about that? All day long, it's sending messages, and it generates the gut's feelings. It detects breaches of trust and anticipates unfairness. It's right hemisphere dominant for emotional salience. And that emotional salience, again, is something that's grabbing your attention. You're doing it, and all of a sudden you hear, boom, you're, hold up, wait a minute, what's happening? What was that noise? So that's what it's doing. Next is the posterior superior temporal sulcus, and it interprets others' interpretations and nonverbal cues. If somebody say, yeah, so we about to do this deal, yeah, keep it on the low. Don't nobody want you to know. You like, hold up. Why you rubbing your hands? Why you keep looking? Yeah, so wait a minute. So let me tell you something. Would you go ahead and I don't trust that. Not at all. And it's right hemisphere dominant. Next, you have the temporal parietal junction, and that supports perspective taking and theory of mind, understanding others' mental states. Again, right dominant for the right hemisphere dominant. Next, you have the orbitofrontal cortex, and that evaluates social rewards, reinforces trustworthy behavior. It's bilateral. And then finally, you have the precuneus posterior cingulate cortex, and that is for self-reflection, social identity, and reputation management. Let me write that down too. And it is bilateral. Reputation management. Okay, and the precuneus posterior cingulate cortex is within the default mode network, and it's crucial for processing information related to yourself, including self-relevance and internal and external stimuli. So when you are in your default mode network, you are accessing your precuneus posterior cingulate cortex because it's part of that self-reflection time. So in summary, by hemisphere, the right hemisphere is emotionally based trust, detecting trust violations, empathy, nonverbal cues, and intuitive and social processing. While the left hemisphere is logical consistency, rule-based honesty, and behavioral regulation. And here's what I always say. Lies come in three. And I talked about this when we talked about be honest, but lies come in three. Because when somebody is trying to lie and manipulate you, they want to lay it on thick. And so they're going to tell you, you ask somebody why was they late to work, and they're going to say, I got up late, it was traffic on the road, and my car wouldn't start. Instead of saying, man, I got caught up watching TikTok videos. Boom, done. When you hear lies come in threes, boom, 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 and it's really emotional because that right amygdala is like, I got to manipulate you. I got to get you to believe what I am saying. And one thing that I've also said is I tell people to tell me the story backwards. If you tell them to tell them the story backwards, people remember lies chronologically in order. I'm going to tell them this. Okay, cool. Now tell me that backwards. Like when I used to interview people and I thought that they might have a little bit of fibbing going on their resume, I'd start at the back of the resume and tell me about your most recent position. They was ready to lie forward. Now they like, yeah, okay. Now tell me about this third job that you had. Yeah, this one that you listed. And now they're going, wait a minute, and they're doing all this and waiting. But if your third job was working at McDonald's, then your third job is working at McDonald's. And it doesn't matter when you say it, I worked at McDonald's. So tell me about when you worked at McDonald's. So you can catch people. Unfortunately, unaccountable people lie. But you definitely, if you hear it 3 times and you tell the person to tell it to you backwards, now you know that there might not be some complete truth and honesty in there. Next is, how do these work together? So to establish trust, because the principle is establish trust and to be trustworthy. So to establish trust, you use the temporal parietal junction and the posterior superior temporal sulcus to read others' intentions. So you're checking it out. Is this person lying to me, or are they telling me the truth? Then the amygdala and the insula gauge emotional safety and authenticity. So is this person their self? Are they authentic? That's what the A in real is for the book. Can you be honest? Can you be your real 100% authentic self? Next is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex. And this helps evaluate the social value of being trustworthy. And then finally, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex governs your ability to act with integrity. Now, back in the day, integrity used to be more on the menu. And now it kind of is it's like parsley. It might be on your dish, it might not be on your dish. It's like optional. You know how they go, do you want to go large with that? Would you like to supersize that? So it's like, you want some integrity with that? Like, nah, fuck it. I don't need no integrity. I'm good. Let's just roll with it. Lean with it, rock with it, roll with it. So it's a dying art. Our integrity is becoming a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's like, oh my goodness, they have integrity. Shit. Wow. Yesterday we were doing an organization and the person had some foreign currency, some highly valued coins, and a bunch of $2 bills in the bank things, pennies, dimes, quarters, all on the floor. We stacked all the money up, put it in the thing. The key was in the safe, jewelry out, everything. Everything was intact because we have integrity. Now, I don't know about some other people. They might try to hit a lick, but that's not something that I'm willing to do ever. Even on my brokest, poorest times in my life back in the day, like, I ain't gonna catch a case. I might catch a cold, but I'm not catching a case. Okay, so have integrity. Go ahead and make that a highlight. Okay, next is to be trustworthy. You rely on the prefrontal cortex to regulate actions and align them with your values. And that's what I did yesterday as I was organizing that bedroom. I'm going to align them with my values, and I'm not going to take your valuables because my values say I value me more than I value your stuff. Next, the insula and the amygdala help you feel and respond to others' emotional cues appropriately. And the temporal parietal junction supports empathy and fairness. So, what questions do you have about the brain regions and the hemisphere domination for establishing trust and being trustworthy, and how these work together before I move on to why people avoid it? And if it's clear, just say it's all clear. You gotta give the all clear in the Army when you have to take off your pro mask. I don't know if they even call it that anymore, but that's your protective mask for gas, nerve agents, and all that. Some of those signals are fading because it's been so many years since I've been gone. Since you've been gone. Regina has something to say. Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? One thing I noticed while Regina is typing, if I have to prepare for cognitive fitness or a normal Wired Wednesday, then my prep time is less. And even when I'm using the principles of real leadership. But when I pick a whole new topic that I have no familiarity with, it's definitely a growth opportunity. I will say that in preparation and all of that, because it's so many more. It's a heightened sense of delivery, especially when I did the synaptic information the other day. For establishing trust section, what comes directly after the amygdala and the insula? Give me one moment. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex. It helps evaluate social value of being trustworthy. And then the final one is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And it governs your ability to act with integrity. Let me know if I need to say it again. It's the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex. It helps evaluate the social value of being. Okay, got it. All right, moving on. So why? Oh, why? What reasons are impacted when people avoid establishing trust and being trustworthy? When a person avoids establishing trust or chooses not to be trustworthy, because it is a choice, specific brain regions associated with empathy, social reasoning, moral judgment, and emotional regulation show reduced activity, suppressed connectivity, and negative activation patterns. And as I mentioned before, with Be Honest, before I get into these regions, when you are dishonest or you are trying to lie, the amygdala will alert you. Don't say that. Don't do that. And if you ignore it, and then you realize, oh, nothing really happened. So it's the guardrails. The truth, be honest, guardrails are up. And say, don't do that. You're going off path. Then you tell a bigger lie, or you're more dishonest. The amygdala says, don't do that. And then you find yourself getting away with it more and more and more, not caring. Then the honest integrity guardrails go down, and there are none. And now you are like the Wild Wild West, and you are lying and being dishonest. And then there is no consequences for what's happening to you. And the next thing you know, you are Bernie Madoff with a Ponzi scheme that has cratered people's lives, people's retirements, companies going bankrupt, Enron, the list goes on, the internet bubble, doggone housing crisis, another one is going to come with all of these corporations buying these rental properties. You're going to see it again, but it just keeps happening. And what happens is once you are no longer sensitive to what's taking place, you just off and running. Lies upon lies upon lies upon lies. So if you're ever wondering if there's any examples currently of somebody who continues to lie in your personal life, professional life, nationally, internationally, and they just keep lying, the guardrails fell off a long time ago, and they have no guardrails anymore. And so their brain has been wired to fabricate any situation or anything that's taking place, because when they initially lied and the amygdala said, hey, what you doing? And nothing happened with a small lie, now they are galaxpheric. With that being said, so what regions are impacted by people avoiding trust and being untrustworthy? The ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and it's impacted when it's avoided, is that it's decreased activation. And so the effect on the behavior is this: impaired moral reasoning, less empathetic, and more self-serving behavior. So they are like me. Because remember, the amygdala's first warning, threat. I got to seek comfort first. So when you keep being untrustworthy, you just keep serving yourself again and again and again and again. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and it is disengaged or underactive. And the effect on behavior is this: poor impulse control. So that means that inhibition control in the executive function is not functioning. It lowers your ethical standards and you become dishonest. So I was watching, what is it? I think it's Trap Queens, American Gangster Trap Queens, of all the people, and then something else. I forgot, that a show about people getting caught, because I got a master's degree in criminal justice, so I still study criminals because I need to understand the criminal minds. But you often ask yourself, well, how did they do this? How did they steal this much money? How did they compromise this many people's identity? How did they just start a whole Ponzi scheme and have a reckless disregard for the people that they were impacting? And it's because they have lowered their ethical standards. And so with the disengaged dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, when you don't have inhibition control, remember that right amygdala just shows up, says, I got this, move out the way. That's how it's actually taking place from a neurological level. And then you just start being dishonest. Guardrails down, I'm going ahead and hit a lick and take everybody's money, cyberly or physically. Next is the amygdala, and it becomes hyperactive or numb. Hyperactive. So that means it is just like, I'm in charge, large in charge, or not doing anything at all. And what happens is either excessive fear happens, paranoia, mistrust, or lack of social caution. So they're like, I don't trust nobody, or they're just like, I don't care. I rolled up in that bank and took everything. I rolled up in that whatever. I stood in front of them people and lied to their face and took that offering and bought me a Benz instead of making the building fund be a building. Never happened to me. Anyway, okay, I'll move on. No, actually I won't. So my mother and stepfather got married in a church, and the church was old. And so they got some money, got some members to donate some money, and then they moved into a facility down the street. And so they were going to have a gym and a school and a major sanctuary, but they said, let's build the gym first because we want the kids in the neighborhood to have something to go to. And they had service inside of the gym. That was 1994, and they are still having service in that gym. But the pastor and his wife both have Bentleys. Okay, anterior insula, it's reduced activity. So no, they didn't lie to the people at all. Anterior insula, reduced activity. So diminished activity to feel guilt or recognize violations of fairness. So they just got some connecting chairs, put it in the gym, put the band up front. You know, a band don't sound good in the gym with all that echoing and everything else. The choir just stood there. They rolled in a podium, and that was that. And yeah, so and the school got closed down too. All right. So yeah, wasn't paying attention to the fairness. Felt like they didn't violate and that thing, and had a bunch of Bible scriptures to back up their actions. Temporal parietal junction. It's underactive, difficulty understanding others' perspectives, and lack of concern for how actions affect others. So the lack of concern that people donated money and the building never showed up. Lack of concern. That's okay. And then everybody said, well, they're doing the best they can. They just tired. And now they're 2 generations later, still sitting in those seats in the gym. Now, next is the posterior superior temporal sulcus, and it is suppressed. And so what happens is it is missed or misinterpreted social cues, sincerity of facial trust signals. And so none of that matters to them anymore. It's like, I'm not even about to try to assess being trustworthy or looking like I'm trustworthy. Next is the orbitofrontal cortex, and it is impaired feedback loop. And so what happens is there's poor judgment of social consequences and rewards of honesty. So when the guardrails fall off because of the amygdala, it's just like, I don't really care about what's happening. I'm not really interested in what this looks like. I don't care. And I don't get a dopamine boost from telling the truth. I, in fact, feel bad. So I'm going to lie and be dishonest because that's where I keep getting that neurotransmission, the neurotransmitter release. So the brain is now wired to be dishonest. And my rewards come from, I got you before you got me. I took your shit. I lied to you. I get to protect me. You don't get a choice in this situation. I'm going to manipulate the dog shit out of you. And it really ain't nothing you can do about it because I don't really care. Next is the precuneus posterior cingulate cortex, and it's disconnected from self-reflection circuits. So it's less focused on this reputation, personal integrity, or social identity. So when it's time to be in that default mode network to really reflect on what's happening, they are plotting their next lie. They are plotting their next lick, their next thing that they're going to do to make sure they catch you slipping instead of the other way around. So their whole brain has been wired for dishonesty, and they are rewarded for it. Point blank, period. Now, when they get caught, and then in theory, they go do some jail time, they come back out reformed, or they're like, man, see, this is where I made my mistake out. When I get out, my mistake at. When I get out, I'm getting ready to do this. Then, see, in my first marriage, I lied and I cheated, but the problem was I left my phone out while I was in the shower. So next time I get married, I'm taking my phone in the shower with me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stop cheating. I'm just going to cheat better. So that's what actually happens. Hence, that's why I'm not talking to anybody in my immediate family, because they are just going to be who they are. And they can be over there. Hemisphere effects. So the right hemisphere is reduced emotional attunement, diminished nonverbal empathy, and lower intuitive awareness of trustworthiness. And then the left hemisphere is weaker logical analysis of ethical consequences and trust patterns. It is, I got away with that, and let me see how much more I can get away with. Because remember, the more you get away with, those amygdala guardrails are coming down, and now you are wired and on fire for untrustworthy behaviors. Now, the summary of the consequences. Avoiding trust and trustworthiness blunts empathy. That means you are not going to have it. It's in the temporal parietal junction, the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and the anterior insula. Next, it weakens moral behavior. So you are not going to operate morally, you're going to operate immorally. And that is in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And notice the prefrontal cortex, that's where all the logic and reasoning and everything else is taking place. So as a result of that, it's not making the right decisions. Next, it damages social relationships. So due to reduced sensitivity to fairness and social cues, the posterior cingulate, superior temporal sulcus, and the orbital frontal cortex are impacted by this. And then finally, it increases interpersonal conflict and suspicion. So that's the amygdala hyperactivity. So when my sister sent me that email last month, automatically I was like, yeah, I don't trust this. And I started running receipts. Let me see what time of year it is. Okay, she done met somebody and family is important to them. So she gonna reach out to kind of mend this relationship. They're like, oh no, you should be with your sister. Yeah. I'm like, I've been down this road 1,000 times. Delete. I ain't even opening it. As soon as I saw the preview, we shouldn't die like this. Delete. Delete, because you up to some shit. You, like Khaled used to say, I'm up to something. She up to something, and I don't trust it. I would trust her past the subject line of an email. Absolutely not. No bueno. So what questions do you have about why people avoid establishing trust and being trustworthy? And if it's clear, we can move on to brain-based activities for it. Nola and Lola said, no questions in clear. No questions in clear. No questions over here. We are clear. All right, no questions. Next is brain-based activities grounded in neuroscience to strengthen establishing trust and being trustworthy. Here are the brain-based activities grounded in neuroscience to help strengthen your ability to establish trust and be trustworthy. Each designed to activate and enhance specific brain regions involved in empathy, integrity, and social connections. One thing I also like to bring up is that being in the military and working at Frito-Lay, you are always following a previous leader. And I was always given the shit show, platoons, companies, whatever it is, send her. And even at Frito-Lay. And so the other thing that you have to do is not be the other person. So because they didn't trust other management, the other leader, they're looking at you like, you gonna do the same thing? They're gonna bring it to your attention. Well, such and such did this. Well, we did it this way. And so now, even though you are a trustworthy person, they don't trust you because you took over from the other person who just left. And you represent the man. You represent the company. So then what you find yourself doing is saying, I'm not them, because I was the rebound manager. So it's like, but I'm not them. But I'm not them. And see, there you go. And now, yeah, give you 30 days. You saying all that, but you about to change. I don't believe shit you saying right now. So you could just come into a situation that's a shit show, and now people don't trust you because you took over. Now you got to do all this other stuff that you inherited from this other person that ain't got nothing to do with you. And now you are undoing a bunch of things or establishing structure. And it's always a couple people that like the untrustworthy manager or leader because they got to get away with shit. And then here I come setting and maintaining high standards. And now we got a problem because they're like, what you doing enforcing the rules? Well, I don't enforce the rules over here. When I first got to Frito-Lay, and I think I've said this story before, Chris Haas and I were both, he was Navy, I was Army, he was enlisted, I was officer. We got to Frito-Lay at the same time. And so we went through our onboarding at the same time. 14 weeks, I think it's 14 weeks or 16 weeks. I know it's at a minimum it was 14 weeks. And we made history. We were the first, they called us resources. We were the first resources, and that plant had been around for 40 years. We were the first resources in the history of that plant during onboarding that got filed grievances against. Larry, the fire operator, was not doing what we had just read and saw in the manual. He was PC, second shift fire person, and the fire operator. And we caught him on a bunch of his shit that he was doing wrong. And the next thing we know, we come in and we are getting called into HR, and Larry has filed a grievance against us. And he was old enough to be our parents for sure. He was mad as hell. And everybody at that point was like, How y'all get a grievance filed against you and you ain't even in charge of nothing yet? But we had to establish this is what's happening. And what the message that we sent was, when we get to our shift, when we get to our team, we're not fucking around. The standard is the standard. So we established our integrity and said, we don't care that we're still in training. What we do know is he not doing his job correctly. And so Larry didn't want to get fired. So he decided he gonna strike first. Even though he was wrong, he's like, oh, and that's what they used to do. If they didn't like you, Bo said he was going to start a union because they knew this is how we get rid of management that wants to hold us accountable. We could call speak up. We could do all these things because we don't like what they're doing. So they were misusing and abusing the system to their advantage, but it didn't work. I left on my own terms. But you got to set and maintain high standards. Integrity is part of it. And sometimes people ain't going to like you. They're going to file a grievance. They're going to call, speak up, and do whatever else they got to do. And most of the time it's because they weren't doing their damn job. So they weren't being trustworthy. Just a side note. So here we go with some activities that you can use. Number one is perspective taking rehearsal. And it activates your temporal parietal junction, your posterior superior temporal sulcus, and your ventral medial prefrontal cortex. So daily, write down a situation where you imagine someone else's thoughts, feelings, or motives. And now you're going to ask, what might they be thinking? And why would they feel that way? And how would I respond in their shoes? What this does is it strengthens your empathy and understanding of intentions. At Frito-Lay, I learned this term, intent versus impact. So sometimes you intend to do something and the impact isn't great. And now you're like, that's not what I intend to do at all. But damn, that's bad. So then you have to bring it back. And that's the same thing that happens for other people. On the surface, there's only a small group of people who wake up every day trying to fuck over people. Sometimes it's a failure in communication, and now I know people don't have the synaptic connections. The wiring may be off. There may be a cultural difference, an age gap, a gender specificity that stops that situation from occurring. So you want to be in the other person's shoes and say, okay, how could this have actually happened? And I always say, who was in the meeting? When you see something that it didn't go like it needed to be, who was there in the process? And that allows you to see it from their perspective. Number two, honesty under pressure writing. Honesty under pressure writing. What this is going to do is activate the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and the orbitofrontal cortex. The activity is recall moments when it was hard to tell the truth or follow through. When it was hard to tell the truth or follow through, and then you're going to reflect on what you chose, how you felt, and what values were challenged. What this does is it builds moral reasoning, behavior regulation, and your accountability circuits. So when you were in a situation and it was difficult to tell the truth, and I will use my own self. I never not said that my mother wasn't a crackhead. The lie that I was supposed to tell was she was in a hospital, and technically she was getting treatment. And so for years, I said nothing. And then finally, I had to start telling that truth because that was part of my existence. It took the longest to say what my stepfather did because I got blamed for so many essays in the past. And I'm like, this person, everybody thinks this person is great and wonderful. Nobody is going to believe me. It's going to look like I'm trying to sabotage some shit. Not that he got much shit anyway, but and so not saying that was me holding on to it and then finally saying, I got to tell the truth. I got to tell the truth for me, for myself. And it's one of the most difficult stories that I've had to say of anything else in the world because you have this cognitive dissonance. You have my mother saying, buy himself a Father's Day and say this and celebrate this man and let him be a grandfather and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. So when you are under pressure, talk about the reasoning, the behavior regulation, and the accountability circuits. And I finally had to say, he's unaccountable. I can't let this go on any longer. He is unaccountable. And so if y'all want to, once again, I've been made the bad guy plenty of times before, but not in the family. So now, okay, cool. I will be the bad guy. I will be the mean, venomous, horrible person in the world, but I got to start telling the truth. So writing about that, really thinking about it, and then just processing how that works. So now I know that under the most immense pressure, cut the whole family off. Everybody gonna be talking shit about you and everything else, but I got to tell the truth. I got to be trustworthy. I have to tell the truth if no one else is going to be willing to tell the truth. And so that is when you're under the most amount of pressure, when you have to, they call it the whistleblowers and everybody else, you got to be under immense pressure and still tell the truth, regardless of the ridicule, regardless of people saying you a victim and how'd you do all this and everything else. You got to go ahead and write it and then do it. Next, number 3 is trust signals recognition practice. Trust signals recognition practice. And it's going to activate the amygdala, the posterior superior temporal sulcus, and the insula. And the activity is watch short video clips and observe real interactions and identify facial expressions, tones, and gestures that signal trustworthiness. And we talked about doing this and be honest as well. So you're just going to watch them. And then you're going to label them as safe, unsure, or untrustworthy. Now, people are putting videos and skits and everything together, but you actually just want to watch videos of people in their natural habitat when they're not really thinking that anybody is watching. And then now you can say that's safe, that's unsafe, or that's untrustworthy. You know, people looking up like I just did. Yeah, so let me see. You got it. Hey, I'm Lenny off of Good Times. Open up his code. You got all kinds of shit in there. And what happens is it sharpens your nonverbal social cues interpretation. Nonverbal communication is 90% of communication. The rest is what you say. So monitoring what people are doing, and if you listen long enough, because professional liars know how to make it seem like that is the truth. But what they're always doing is they're hyped and they got a lot of energy because they're attempting to give you nice little dopamine boosts, tell you what you want to hear, but they're attempting to hijack your amygdala. And so you become extremely emotional, and now you are not in rational thought. And so now you say, oh my God, I trusted them. You see people all the time, widows and widowers, somebody that came and took all their life savings. And it's like, how did that happen? You were such a smart person. What happened? And it was slick. If you put toads and frogs in warm water, they will slowly and surely trust the water. And the next thing you know, they're going to die in that water. So it's a subtle, small things. Tell you what you want to hear. Something sounds too good to be true. And all of these other things, you got to just pay attention. Trust but verify. Make sure people are who they say they are. Google and ChatGPT will tell you a lot. And if you can't find shit on them in this day and age, you really going to observe. 90 days, people will show you who they are, because they definitely want to hurry up and get things going. Next is compassion meditation. And this activates the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the insula, and the temporal parietal junction. The activity is sit quietly, breathe deeply, and silently repeat. May I be honest and kind. May others feel safe with me. May I see the good in others and act with integrity. This builds circuits for emotional safety, empathy, and compassion-based trust. Now, the hood in me, the cop in me, the soldier in me is like, yes, but the first thing you got to say is this person personally accountable? If this person is not personally accountable, don't say that shit. Don't look for that, because it's not there. Because an unaccountable person is going to be untrustworthy. They are not going to establish trust. They're not. This works for people who are holding themselves personally accountable. That is the caveat. So don't do it because, oh my goodness, they're so nice. Nice people fly under the radar. Y'all let nice people get away with more shit than they should. Yes. So compassion meditation. It is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the insula and the temporal parietal junction. And it activates, the activity is sit quietly, breathe deeply, and silently repeat. May I be honest and kind. May others feel safe with me. May I see the good in others and act with integrity. This builds the circuit for emotional safety, empathy, and compassion-based trust. Yes. So you are going to say those things. May I be honest and kind. May others feel safe with me. May I see the good in others and act with integrity. And I am saying, this is Dr. Donna, only for people who are holding themselves personally accountable. Do not say this for unaccountable people, because you will end up in a precarious situation, because unaccountable people are not trustworthy and they are not going to be establishing trust with you. It's not going to happen, because as soon as shit hits the fan or goes left, they are going to choose themselves first. They are going to have a hijacked amygdala and say it's me over you. So don't do that for them. For them, it's hold them personally accountable. Don't lie to me. I don't trust you. You're going to have to become personally accountable. Hence, that's why I don't talk to my immediate family anymore. They do. And they will take, and that's why they like it. And they, especially, and this is just with the Christians. You said you a Christian. You're supposed to love everybody. You're supposed to turn the other cheek. And they start using those parts of the Bible against you. And other religions have it as well. I'm a Christian. I know that one the most. And so they start trying to use that against you. And it's like, yeah, did you miss the 10 Commandments? Did you miss the seven deadly sins? Did you read that daggone book too? Because it's a whole bunch of other stuff you ain't doing. And now you over here trying to hold me accountable to what? No, you said you was a Christian too. So what's up with that? So this does not apply to unaccountable people at all. Hold them personally accountable. Say, first thing you need to do is be personally accountable. I do not trust you because you are unaccountable. So I'm going to use my gut instincts and say, stay over there. All right, number 5, accountability role play. And this is going to activate the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the orbitofrontal cortex. I was about to say occipital. Orbitofrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex. And the activity is practice responding to tough questions like, why didn't you follow through? How can I trust you again? And get honest. Responsibility-driven responses, give honest, responsibility-driven responses out loud. And what this does is this builds neural pathways for owning behavior and restoring trust. So if you have betrayed someone's trust, you got to be honest. You got to say, this is what I did. This is why I did it. I apologize to you. And here is what I am going to do to rectify that situation. So if you cannot do that, you are wrong. Apologize when you are wrong is one of the 74 principles of real leadership on purpose, 100%. And so when people cheated, I'm like, cheating takes so much coordination. Do not say it was an accident. You can say it was a bunch of other shit, but an accident, it was not. And so if you want to repair relationships, if you lied, my sister, my mother, and a stepfather lied ad nauseum over and over and over and over and over and over again, and they want me to just say, it's okay. It's okay. Here, bearing a meal, some raggedy ass gift with some shoddy ass apology that ain't really an apology, and you want me to stick around? Absolutely not. I don't trust y'all. I don't trust you, and you had damn near 50 years for me to trust you, and now I don't. So I don't know how many more years I got left, but I definitely ain't about to be sticking around and continuously be lied to. So I don't lie to you, and I trust you until you give me reason not to, and then it's up to you to try to repair that trust. But most of the time, it doesn't happen because, again, as Regina said, unaccountable people will do a job on you if you allow them. And they will use all of your niceness. And I just posted the other day on Threads, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, because it's not. You will find out. And I will tell y'all a story without incriminating ourselves. But we have a neighbor across the street that just moved. Our trash day is on Tuesday. You put your homeowners association will not let you put the trash out until 6 p.m. the day before. We don't really ever have a lot of trash because we live a minimalistic life. So we have 2 bins, one for trash, one for recycle. I did some spring cleaning, summer cleaning, and threw some things away. Nola did the same thing. 6 p.m. on Monday, she puts the trash out. And then she goes back at 9:30 to put some sneakers that she didn't want, that she designed that she didn't want, in the trash. So we wake up Tuesday, we're getting ready to go run some errands in the morning, and her seat, I looked down at the driver's seat, and there's a French fry that fell down. I'm like, oh, let me throw that out. So initially I just put it on, because we do this in the military, it's food. I was like, oh, I'll just put it out there for the birds to eat. Then I was like, that's too close to the house. The ants gonna come. So I picked the one French fry up and open up our trash bin, and there is trash all the way up to the top. And Nola paints. And so there was this drawing in there. And I looked at the drawing. I was like, when she do this drawing? So she came out the house, and I said, you threw some stuff away? And she said, no, I just threw the Snickers away. She said, I thought you threw the stuff away. I said, no, that ain't my stuff. So y'all know I'm a germaphobe. I said, who the fuck's trash is this? Because we have to pay $60 every quarter for trash removal. I open it up, and the people across the street have decided that now their house, they're the only houses at one point when they built the subdivision back in 97, they technically have an alley. So they have to pull through the back of their house, that block, and that's where their trash is, which is in the back of the house of their kitchen. So they had to walk through the front of their house, walk through their front yard, walk through their gate, walk across the street to put their trash in our trash. Can't make a mistake in doing that. So they put 5 bags of their trash in our trash, and that was bulk day. On bulk day, you could put whatever fuck trash out you want, and they will pick it up. So, needless to say, when they came back home, they had their trash back in the front of their house. And so I said the unmitigated gall. So I'm saying that to say that people will do whatever the hell they want to do, unaccountable people, if you let them. And at first I was like, dang, this was wrong. And I said, no, you had to walk through your whole house, walk through your front yard, and walk across the street and put your 5 bags of trash in our trash can because you're moving when you have bulk, because you're trying to save some money and you don't want to pay for extra bulk pickup. But you're going to use our empty, which you think is empty. So the point in saying all of that is that unaccountable people will be unaccountable if you allow them to be. And so we had to let them know that you are being unaccountable. And so what happened was I opened up the bags of trash because then the criminal justice inside of me said, they got some mail in here. I'm going to find out whose trash this is. And I opened up 2 bags, found it, gave them their trash back, but I left the mail out to let them know, I know this is your trash. So that was part of it. Yes, they had it all. Their trash made it from their gate to the front door and everywhere else in the bushes and everywhere else. So they had to clean it up. We got back home. They had cleaner and water coming down in the sidewalk and in the street and everything else. Yes, they did. So we gave them their trash back because it was theirs, and they were hoarders and they had a bunch of stuff. They waited to the last minute, and now they're trying to hurry up and get this done to get out of there. And so, yeah, because the thing about it is we would get their mail, Nola would take their mail over to them. And so they had no idea who they were dealing with, but they're not confused anymore about that. And so my point is that unaccountable people will do unaccountable things. And number one, you got to hold them personally accountable. If we were an apartment complex and we had dumpsters, no big deal. But we literally have to pay Republic $60 every quarter. Everybody does. And it was bulk trash day. And if they had, and the problem is he waited until it got dark. So the bags weren't in there at 6 when we couldn't be because they weren't out. But when Nola went back at 9:30, the trash bags were in there, and she didn't think anything of it because she thought it was mine. And if I hadn't saw that fry and threw it in the trash, we would have never known that that's what had taken place. And he waited until it got dark and then did it. So if he had came over while it was, when we put it out and said, hey, I got all this bulk stuff, we getting ready to move, we got 2 extra bulk trash cans, I would say, yeah, put it in the bulk trash can, no problem. But because he didn't ask, and they have been unaccountable with their parking passes and everything. So the moral of the story is fuck around and find out. Don't start knowing won't be done. That's how I see that. So you have to hold people personally accountable. If you don't, then they're definitely going to do whatever it is that they want to do. All right. So feedback. So that's the accountability role play. You want to get real honest. I digress. Now let me get back to the point. Feedback integration ritual. So you're going to be using the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the orbitofrontal cortex, and the posterior cingulate cortex. And the activity is regularly ask a trusted person, what do I do that builds trust and what hurts it? So go ask somebody that you trust those 2 questions. What do I do to build trust and what hurts it? And then reflect and make 1 behavioral adjustment per week. And what this does is it strengthens self-awareness, learning, and adaptive trust behavior. When Nola was younger, she used to tell lies all the time. And I used to tell her, when you lie to me, you took my ability away to choose. And that's what they did. They took our ability away to choose. Now, what I will say is that we are not the same ethnicity as our neighbors. None of our neighbors. And so I think the neighbors got inspired by 47 and decided they misread the room. They misread that situation, but they were clear when they got back home. They were very, and what was funny is 2 other neighbors were looking at us and they didn't say anything either while it was taking place. They were talking to each other about flowers. It was like, okay, well, that's what happens. Leave them alone. So anyway, yeah, it was It's quite an interesting Tuesday morning. So that's what you do. Go to somebody that you trust and ask them those two questions. Next and finally is values-driven action mapping. And so what you're going to use is the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and the posterior cingulate cortex. And so the activity is list your top 3 values. Look at your face. Why are you saying that, Regina? Because we have witnesses, honesty, respect, and fairness. So list your top 3 values, and for each one, write down 1 action per day that aligns with that. And what this is going to do is it's going to align behavior with moral intent and build internal consistency. So your top 3, your no debates, you're going to write them down, and then you're going to say 1 action per day that aligns with my honesty, my respect, and my fairness. Yes. So what questions do you have about the activities? And we're coming around third with the benefits of it. If it's clear, let me know that it's clear. Yeah, we went back and forth all day long thinking about it, what was the best way and all of that, but it was their trash. It was their trash. So they needed it back. If you created all that trash, it's your responsibility to discard it properly. Clear. Okay, the feedback ritual is this. It's the activities. So you're going to have the ventral, it activates the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, the orbital frontal cortex, the orbitofrontal cortex, and the posterior cingulate cortex. And the activity is regularly ask a trusted person, what do I do that builds trust and what hurts it? What do I do that builds trust and what hurts it? And then you're going to reflect and make 1 behavioral adjustment per week. And what this does is it strengthens self-awareness, learning, and adaptive trust behavior. What do I do that builds trust? What hurts it? And then make 1 behavioral adjustment per week and strengthen self-awareness, learning, and adaptive trust behavior. Okay. And finally, what are the benefits of establishing trust and being trustworthy? Establishing trust and being trustworthy activates and strengthens a powerful network of brain regions across both hemispheres. These actions enhance social intelligence, emotional regulation, and long-term cognitive health. And they are the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And what it does is the neuroscience benefit is it enhances more reasoning, emotional balance, and empathy. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and it improves your decision making, impulse control, and behavioral consistency. Next is the amygdala. It increases accuracy in assessing emotional signals and reduces fear-based activity. Next is the anterior insula. It boosts interoception awareness, that's your gut feelings, and fairness sensitivity. Next is the temporal parietal junction. It strengthens perspective taking and theory of mind, so basically understanding other people's thoughts. Next is the posterior superior temporal sulcus. It heightens social perceptions and nonverbal communications. Next is the orbitofrontal cortex. It sharpens fear-based decision-making and social behavior learning. And then finally, the precuneus posterior cingulate cortex. It promotes self-awareness, trust-based reflection, and value alignment. The hemisphere benefits are that in the right hemisphere, it enhances your emotional intelligence, and that's what you need. and it boosts your empathy and intuition. It improves nonverbal communication, reading, so your facial expressions, your tone, your body language. And it strengthens social bonding circuits. The left hemisphere is it improves logical integrity in decision making. It reinforces ethical reasoning. It enhances verbal communication tied to promises, honesty, and follow through. And so if you promise someone something and then you don't follow through, you have to apologize and explain why you didn't do it and then what you're going to do to follow through in the future. So broken promises are a lack of trust and being trustworthy. That's something simple. I promise you, I'm gonna do, I promise you, and then you don't, and then you make excuses. That's what unaccountable people do often. So it's not these big things. It's this, okay, and follow through. And then it supports the rule-based trust system. So commitments and consistency. And the integration benefit is this. When both hemispheres work together, you become a balanced, emotionally intelligent, trustworthy leader. You can build and sustain trust faster and recover it more effectively after conflict. And your brain experiences a resilient neuroprotective state and reduces stress and improves your mental health. So, what questions do you have about establishing trust and being trustworthy? I'm going to go ahead and go over the brain bit, and then we'll be out of here. If it's clear, let me know. No questions. Got it. Regina is stepping away, so on to the brain bit. No questions. Okay, today's brain bit is about asking questions. And here we have it. The brain bit, asking questions. Curiosity isn't a weakness, it's a brain strengthening superpower. Curiosity isn't a weakness, it's a brain strengthening superpower. So asking questions activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, especially the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the ventral medial regions, which are responsible for critical thinking, decision making, and curiosity. So it also engages the hippocampus for memory formation and the anterior cingulate cortex, which monitors conflict and uncertainty. So here are the brain benefits for asking questions. It strengthens your working memory. It enhances learning and retention. It boosts problem solving and creative thinking. It builds confidence through clarity. And it trains the brain to tolerate ambiguity and pursue insight. So that I don't know. It's training the brain to say it's okay that you don't know. Now you're going to ask a question so that you do know. And if you don't know, ask is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. The neuroscience insight is this. Every time you ask a question, you're literally rewiring your brain for a deeper understanding and greater mental agility. So the moral of the story is this. If you don't know, ask. If you want to know, ask. If you need to know, ask. Unaccountable people don't like you asking questions because most of the time they don't have a detailed answer. They don't have a strategy for what they're doing. They don't have a system, and they don't have the neurological pathways and connectivity to answer your questions. That's why in school, you're not encouraged to ask questions after elementary school. At the job, that's just the way we do it. You trying to do too much. You're doing extra work. Don't nobody need to know all of that, but you need to know it. Because when you get that information in your working memory, you're going to start creating new neural pathway connections and get closer and closer to your 860 trillion or more synaptic connections. So you ask as much as possible. I recommend ChatGPT because Chat got more answers than any other human I ever came in contact with right there at the fingertips of my phone. So yes, ask questions because your brain is going to benefit from it and you are going to become smarter, bigger, better, badder, bolder, and more connected. It's going to allow you to become your best day in and day out. So ask as many questions as necessary. And people that don't like to answer questions for you that are in your life shouldn't be in your life. They shouldn't be in your life. Good morning. Next is the last two questions for the day. And they are, what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? So good morning to you. I'm in the United States. What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself are the questions on the table currently in the chat. What did you learn today? And remember, if you're thinking, type an ellipse, a brain emoji, a thinking emoji, something to let me know that you are pondering the answers to these two questions. Mm-hmm. 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 Regina, the questions are, what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? No, I see your ellipse. Okay, I'm gonna do it, and hopefully YouTube doesn't kick me out. If it does, I will be back. There we go. And in that bottom right corner is a brain t-shirt that I'm potentially thinking about getting. Chad and I made that yesterday. Okay. I've got to write the time down. So what did you learn today? All right, Regina, I learned that being trusted and trustworthy is more complicated than I thought. No idea so many areas of the brain were involved. The brain regions continue to work as a unit. Yes, ma'am. That is true. 100%. I learned about myself asking questions actually makes my brain work better. Yes. And so what I'm finding, Regina, to continue to add to what you just said, is that I used to just say, this is what you need to do, not all you have to do. And I would tell people my strategy for doing something, not realizing the thousands of synaptic connections that have to take place in order for that strategy to be implemented. So if you have somebody that's a habitual liar or a chronic liar, and they've been lying their whole life, and you sit them down, they go to lying 12-step programs, and they say, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Well, first of all, you got to get the amygdala guardrails back up. And you have to tell them that for a while, telling the truth is going to be painful for you because you're not going to get that release of dopamine. And so your right and left amygdalas are going to be fighting with you because they are large and in charge. And you are reducing their strength to the size of the almond, the grams that they are, instead of them trying to take over your whole 2 to 3 pound brain. So when you just say, you just need to start telling the truth. You just need to start telling the truth. Think about how many years they've been lying. Their whole brain is wired to be untrustworthy, and it benefits them. So basically what you're saying is your whole brain needs to be rewired. But it sounds like you just said, just tell the truth, when that's not neurologically possible. It's going to be a bunch of pruning, a bunch of long-term depression, which means you stop doing that and for long term. And then you have to engage and get wire fire for the truth, wire fire, wire fire. And if there isn't enough excitatoriness in the cells, it's not going to connect and fire. So it could take months for them to begin to tell one truth, let alone truth all day long. So it is not that simple when you say all you got to do, you just got to do, when you think of the amount of regions that it takes to tell the truth when everything is functioning, let alone if you just dismantled it. It's like having asbestos in a building. You're going to have to do a whole lot to get that out of there. Or lead paint. Noah said, I learned about myself asking questions. Oh, yes, I read that. Then you said, I learned that the amygdala is part of the lack of trust. Wouldn't have guessed that. Right dominated. Right hemisphere dominated. Okay. Lola said, I learned why people don't like to answer questions about myself. I need to stay worthy of trust because it strengthens several parts of my brain. That is correct. And unaccountable people love talking you out of your trust of them. But they want to know that they can trust and depend on you all the time. If they're used to your schedule and you're supposed to be at home at 5 p.m. on a Friday and you're not there, they will call you 50 fucking times until you answer. Where you been? Why you wasn't at home? 5 o'clock? I thought you was always home at 5 o'clock. I supposed to, and then you have to, you explaining yourself to them, and they will have promised you something and didn't do it, and then say, what you mad for? Everybody can't be everything to everybody. And now you like, but you promised. So that's why you can't have any unaccountable people in your life, because they are untrustworthy. They are going to break promises. They are not. One of the 74 principles of real leadership is to keep your word. And another one is apologize when you're wrong. So if you don't keep your word, you're wrong. So you got to apologize. And then you got to handle conflict when it occurs, which is the third principle of real leadership. So see how all of these connect together? And that connectivity is what makes you best. And that can occur if people are untrustworthy. And again, they could have lied when they were in the 7th grade and got away with it. And now they're 50 years old and they have been getting away with it ever since, not keeping their word, not promising, not doing anything. And now you're saying, just tell the truth. And them neural pathways is like, what? Do the what? You might as well be saying gamma gumma gamma gamma gamma. Because neurologically, it can't even process it no more. It's been putting those pathways have been putting that person first, don't have empathy, don't care about the social implications or any of the reputation or anything. So it's going to be a minute on them telling the truth. And then Regina said, I learned a strategy to help detect the lie. Ask them to tell their story backwards. Yep, you're gonna mess them up real. Walk me through that backwards, so I can, because I want to completely understand it. So tell me what happened last, and then we'll get to what happened first. And then, and as soon as they say, huh, you got them. You definitely have them. Okay. So in summation, establishing trust and being trustworthy is important in every relationship that you have with another human being. With every person that you decide that you are going to be in a relationship, business, professional, personal, spiritual, exercise, low, physical, because they're your physical trainer. And you need to be able to trust those people. And so trust your gut. Whenever you meet somebody for the first time, trust that initial gut reaction. And then it's either going to be true or untrue. Now, if your amygdala is hijacked when you met them, because a lot of people be like, yeah, when I first met you, I ain't like you. I thought you was too much. And then you might be wrong. But over time, just take that snapshot, a Polaroid, mental snapshot, and then see if it matches what you thought or if it didn't match what you thought. But as I have said, if I show up on your screen, it's because you asked the higher power for something different. Because I don't do advertising or anything else. So if you ask for change and I'm it, and you say, no, that's not what because it came packaged differently because I make you feel uncomfortable. It's just something about her. I don't trust it. I don't trust. Anybody that's that honest got something to hide. Whatever. I heard that. Yeah, you just, because you tell everything. If you tell everything, something wrong with you. You just out here telling all your business. Everybody don't need to know all your business. They do if you're transparent, be authentic. I ain't got shit to hide. Here you go. Here's the truth. You don't like it? Move on. Only fake people and liars have a problem with my honesty. That's the real deal, Holyfield. So you have to do this yourself. It's personal accountability. It's personal accountability. It's personal accountability. That's what it is. You are going to need to wire your brain to be personally accountable. That is what is going to take place. Now, some of you who have been here have noticed that there have been unaccountable people here on the live today. And those people may potentially still be on this live. And I have made a personal decision that I am not going to take action for somebody else's unaccountability anymore. I'm not going to take action. I'm not participating. I'm not going to be your host, and I'm not participating because I work very diligently to present information to you for the people who actually want to wire your brain. And so I am not participating. And there will come a day when I will have an open live and people will just know, don't type unaccountable things in the comment section. My comment section over Instagram every now and then, and on TikTok every now and then, someone will say something. And now it's getting to the point where it's not even bad, but it just doesn't match the post. Because I'm not participating in the world that they created. I wasn't in those meetings. I didn't sign up for any of those unaccountable antics. And so we had this concept, and Noah said this to me the other day for a different reason. Drop the rope. If you're playing tug of war with someone and you drop the rope, the tug of war ends. The tug of war ends. And I saw Kamala on Stephen Roper there because she has a book out now. And she said, the system is broken. The system is broken and I got to do something else because the system, I can't be in the system and it's broken. And I thought about that as well. And I thought, oh, if I go to Loserville and set up shop and allow losers, I help the losers in Loserville, they will change. They won't. They won't. I've done it too many times. And so what I am saying is you can't fix that system. It's fucked up. You don't, it's like if you have a house that has asbestos and black mold in it, sometimes you just got to demolish it and termites and shit. You got to demolish it, doggone, get the contaminated land back in order and build something else or go somewhere else and build something else. And that's the choice that I've made. I'm building something else because that system is broken. It isn't, well, repair racism, repair sexism, repair the financial divide between the uber 1% wealthy and the poor. No, the whole system was designed through hijacked amygdalas. And every time you try to fix it, you're using a hijacked amygdala to fix a hijacked amygdala system. And that's why none of it is working. Look how many brain regions it takes just to start telling the truth. And you're trying to dismantle a system that was built on a lie? The system was built on a lie. The mud seal itself is false. How you going to fix that? You can't. And if you take the mud seal and the beams out of the load-bearing walls and all of that out of an infrastructure, it's going to fall. And now you have all this debris and rubble that you have to discard and put it somewhere. Or you could say, that system doesn't work. Let's build another system. And since the system is happening up here and not out here, everybody is walking around with the dysfunctional system globally here, you get to change it because the brain is plastic. So I'm not participating in the system because the system was built on a lie. That's the problem. The system was built on a lie. If you get married to the wrong person and the relationship was built on a lie, both of y'all misrepresented yourself, your marriage is a lie. If you enter into a business partnership and one or more person has lied, the business is built on a lie. So you can't have a functioning anything when the mud seal is a lie, when it's not true. So I'm saying I'm not participating. Because I didn't get a say so hundreds of years ago for this country and thousands of years ago. So I'm sick of fixing your system. And that's what Kamala was saying. This system is broken. And because the people in it are broken up here. The guardrails are gone. The neural pathways ain't neural pathway any. And negativity bias is at the root of all of it. So I'm not participating. I'm not going to flip up, decide I'm going to stop and I got to block and I got to make all these decisions. Fuck y'all. The decision that I'm going to make is the one that I made when I pressed live at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to go on with my lesson. I'm going to go on with my day. I'm going to go on with my life for whatever time I have left. Fuck y'all. And all of y'all unaccountability because your system is broken. Your system doesn't work for you or for anybody else. So I'm not participating. I'm dropping the motherfucking rope and I'm not picking it back up. It's not, but if you go over here and help this group, you can't. Each individual person has to make a neurological choice. I'm going to be personally accountable and I'm going to be my best. That's what has to happen globally. 6 billion adults. That's how the system gets fixed by each individual, because each individual person is waking up every day and being unaccountable. So each individual person, because you can't. I've been the only accountable person in a situation trying to get 30 people to be personally accountable, and they're not. Somewhat lukewarm, half-assed it. So I'm not participating. I'm not. I am not going to do it because your system is broken. My system is not broken. The neighbors across the street decided that they didn't want to clear their house out soon enough. They didn't want to pay for extra bulk. We had extra bulk and landscaping and Nola's bed, and we had to call College Chunks and pay $150 for them to come haul our stuff away. Those are the rules. So they decided, because we were so personally accountable and only had one trash bag in our big giant trash bin, that they could deposit their trash into our trash bin after we put our trash bins out and it was dark outside, thinking they were in stealth mode. And I could have just left the French fry. It was a French fry. That's how you know we were supposed to find out, because I was like, nah, it's too close to the house. Let me just put it in the trash, because I was leaving it for the pigeons. And now I see this because they were unaccountable and have been unaccountable. So that was the turning and defining point for Manola and I. And I said, no more. I'm not participating in your system. I'm not going to be trying to figure out how to make your system work. It doesn't work. So I'm not going to be, oh, let me block this person. What did this person say? You are of no significance to me. You are of no significance to me. So as far as I'm concerned, comments aren't there. That's as far as I'm concerned. And so I suggest that you all do the same. And if it's really bad, YouTube is going to hold it. If it's really, really, really bad. But I'm not participating, because you shouldn't have to make a system to block people, because people should be personally accountable. So the fact that that exists means that that's their system. That's not my system. So I'm off my bandwagon, my podium, to my soapbox for today. But going forward, I made this decision 2 days ago. Basically Wednesday, after the whole trash thing, because I said the system is broken. And when I saw her on TikTok yesterday, Kamala saying that, I said, the system is broken and you can't fix it from the inside out. That's what we believe. Accountable people, personally accountable people, believe we can go fix it from the inside, but you can't, because I can't get inside your brain. You have to go inside your brain. So this is 100% on the 6 billion, 5.9 billion, rounded up to 6 billion adults. That shit's on you. And either you're going to do the neurological work to make your existence better, or you're not. But that's not on me. My calling is to teach you how to do it. Your responsibility is to do it or not do it. The choice is up to you, but I'm not going to lose no sleep at night because you don't want to wire your brain to be your best. That's on you. But I'm also not going to allow you to host over here either. Joseph, you cannot focus because your working memory is not working. It has nothing to do with sugar. You do not have the neurological connectivity for a functioning working memory. So until you start to wire your brain to connect, two neurons connecting, creating synaptic connections to focus. When neurons fire, they wire, and the repeatedness of focusing is how you focus. Your problem isn't that you can't focus. Your problem is you don't know how your brain functions, and you're assuming that because you can't focus, that's the issue. The issue is that you were never taught how your brain functions. Therefore, you don't know how it functions, and you don't know how to use it, and you believe that it's just manifesting and focusing on university. But your brain isn't functioning properly because you didn't wire it to function. So you don't know how to use it, and that's why you're not using it correctly. I'm live every day at 5:30 a.m. not Pacific Standard Time in the US. Not sure where you're located because you said university, so that appears to be across the pond. And so what you can do is watch the previous lives, learn how to wire your brain. If you can attend, then you can attend. Universities are getting ready to start back here in America. That's what you can do. But you're misdiagnosing yourself. You need to learn how to use your brain wholly and completely. It's not one thing, it's all things. There are 9 different regions of the brain just to be able to tell the truth. Just to be able to tell the truth. You need your whole brain functioning as a whole entire unit in order for you to become your best. So you need to learn how to use your brain and stop picking these things. Now, I understand the thought leaders and the experts got you thinking if you fix this one thing that your brain is going to function properly and your life will be great. It's not. You need to learn how your brain functions and then use that on purpose. And you need to create synaptic connections in order for you to be at your best. With that being said, I'm getting ready to get out of here because my throat is scratchy, and so I need to take a pause. I don't like having a pause and talking at the same time, because where do you put it while you're talking? But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I've dropped the rope. I'm not fighting with unaccountable people anymore. I'm not fixing shit that they broke. I'm not trying to repair anything in that system anymore. Feet 10 toes down, standing on business. Personal accountability is the way we change the world. All the rest of that shit is just fodder. God willing, higher power in the universe. I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a fantastic Friday and a braintastic day. Take care.